Welcome to Connecting TM1 with QlikView. In this video, we're going to show you how you can take multidimensional information stored in TM1 and bring that directly into the QlikView visualization app. We're going to be doing this through a product called TM1Connect. So what is TM1Connect? It's a system which enables you to take this multidimensional data and handle some of that complex processing and bring it into something similar to QlikView, which is more relationally oriented. Tableau is another one, and really any ODBC compliant application such as Microsoft Excel or Access. So why TM1Connect? Essentially, using TM1Connect enables direct connectivity from QlikView into TM1. So you do not have to build the TI extracts to export the data first and then import it into QlikView. Through TM1Connect, we also enable ODBC connectivity over the internet, so your Excel users, your MS Access users, or anything else that uses ODBC can pull that information out of TM1 directly as well. This allows you to leverage the business logic that you've already defined in TM1 without having to rebuild it in your QlikView applications. In addition, it honors TM1 security. So as the user is authorized to see only certain parts of the information in TM1, it also applies when they connect up through TM1Connect. So there are two modes of operation with TM1Connect. We provide the direct connection. So this is when you can use the QlikView desktop to connect immediately through TM1 using a connector add-in that we will be looking at. And the other method is through a batch extract. TM1Connect provides a scheduling batch mode that will create QVX files directly for import into QlikView. So why use Direct Connect? You will be more prone to use Direct Connect when real-time access is required by your users. In budgeting situations where they need to pull that information and see what that impact is. The other times you can use it is when the end user needs to control the information that's coming in. So if they're using the desktop application and they want to be able to pick and choose what information they bring in, then you would use the Direct Connect. Also, if you want to leverage some of the complex business logic in TM1, especially as it relates to the aggregate data. Now, the thing to be aware of is with a Direct Connect, since you are importing it, the data volume that you'll be pulling from TM1 should be relatively low. In other words, you shouldn't be doing, gigabyte cube extracts for every user that's using Direct Connect. And the other reason is that the security is managed through TM1. So when you have these situations, you would want to use the Direct Connect capability. For batch mode, you will be using the extract for any large data volumes. So this would be when you want to export an entire cube and make that available as the data source for QlikView. Also, when there are server-based application deployments, as opposed to the Direct Connect, which relies on QlikView desktop, the server-based applications, when you're publishing it through the portal, you would want to use the batch extract. Also, another reason why you may use the batch extract is if you want the application in QlikView to control the security for the reduction and so forth. You will do that through a batch extract. Another reason to use the batch extract is if you want a centrally developed application, whereas you do not allow the users to build their own. So let's take a look now at TM1Connect, and we'll show you how we actually do that. To make information available to the QlikView users, you first need to go into the TM1Connect Manager. And it is a web-based application that shows you the list of the cubes that are available in TM1 and the views that have been generated or exist currently on that cube. So in this case, I've got employee by period, and I can select one of the existing views, for example, monthly compensation. And this lists all of the properties, what are the titles, which dimensions are on the rows, and which dimensions are on the columns. I can preview this information, and what you'll see here is that I've got the measures on the rows, and I've got the periods in the columns. This is a very typical view that you will see in TM1, but for QlikView, this is actually an issue because What it likes to do is to look down the rows for each of these columns and would like to aggregate that information. So getting a total of January is very difficult for the total compensation because you actually have to look within the rows. So Connect gives you the opportunity to take that existing view and augment it slightly through a drag and drop operation. And now if I preview it this way, what I've done is I've swapped the columns and rows. So now I've got the periods in the rows, and I've got the columns that correspond to something that is aggregatable within QlikView. So total compensation or total benefits or bonus. So if I wanted to get the sum total of all of this for the entire year, I can just sum this entire column. So you do have to be careful a little bit about how you create the data that is going to be presented to the user. But once that's set up, you simply need to choose the publish option, and that makes it available to the direct connect users, and then save it. So now this has saved a view out there, and it will be made available to the QlikView users called monthly compensation. Let's go ahead and bring up TM1Connect. I'm sorry, QlikView, and we'll create a new document here. So if I go to the edit script and open up the dialog here, what you'll see in this database list here is, in addition to the ODBC OLIDB, you get the TM1Connect connector. If you choose the Connect button here, you will be presented with a dialog which shows you the server name and the TM1Connect. And notice this is an HTTP URL, so we're going to connect through the internet with the username and the password. Choose OK. And then you see it creates the custom connection. We'll choose TM1 Select, and the TM1 Select then brings up a dialog that lists all of the views which have been published for user consumption. So in this case, I've got the default one and then the one I just created, which was monthly compensation. If you look at what's on the right-hand side here in the details, it will tell you that these are the dimensions which are on the titles, which are on the rows, and which are on the columns, and then what order they are in the cube. And this is just display information if the user is interested. Once they choose select, what it does is it creates a SQL statement, and you can see how it actually is constructed. So select every column from monthly compensation where the employee is equal to all employees, actual, year 2013, all departments, and then the period is actually an MDX expression. So if I choose reload, and it's going to ask me to save this file. We'll save it here as sample. And it's going to load the 12 rows that we saw in that view. So if I hit close here, you can now see all of the fields that it imported with the view definition that we created in the manager. So I can go ahead and cancel this, but I'm going to go ahead and do it through a table object. As opposed to the fields, we'll add them all in, choose apply, and now you can see that the data has been brought in, and we've got the rows here for each of the measures for this employee. So total compensation, insurance, and so forth. So that is the basics for getting data in from TM1Connect. But one thing you'll notice is that when we look at the edit script here, that this is an SQL statement, which means that we do have more control over what data is brought in from the view that has been defined. So I'm going to remove this SQL statement. I'm going to go back into our selection criteria, and I'm going to take a look now at the filters. So in this tab, we can see which dimensions are on the basically on the titles, which ones are on the rows, and the user has the opportunity to customize that if you allow them to. So when they come into this selection, they can either pick from a list of members that are in the dimension, and they can choose one or more. So we could say, I want the financial analysis and financial reporting, and choose select, and that will choose multiple members. And they can choose a subset, and I've only got defined in this one the default subset, but it shows you the elements that are within that. We can also look at a library, which is defined in TM1Connect as an expression that you can set up in advance that the users can take advantage of and use as an MDX statement. Or they can actually enter their own MDX if they're advanced enough to do so. They can also choose what columns they're going to be bringing into the view. So let's go to our monthly compensation, and we're going to take out enrolled total. We just want the bonus, insurance, salary, vacation. Let's get rid of these. And what you'll notice then is that the select statement changes, and it says select the different columns that we chose from that dialog box. Now they can also type this in. It does not have to be done necessarily from the dialog that you saw. So if we choose OK and we can rerun this script, it'll still bring in the same columns, but this time it's a much reduced set of columns that are brought in here. So as the administrator for TM1Connect, you will basically define what data is available, and then the Connect users or the QlikView users will come in and pull off what information that they want to see in it. And this is also how you would build your applications as well. So this really kind of describes the direct connect or the on-demand connection, but there is also the ability to schedule this for an extract into a scheduled process. And when you come to the scheduler here now, what you're basically doing is you're setting up a file to be created in a number of different formats. We support the native QVX format, the CSV, and TXT, of course. So we're going to go ahead and choose QVX format this time, and we're going to say employee compensation. And when I choose save and run now, it's just going to go ahead and submit that to the scheduler, which over a period of time will start to execute this. I did get no records, so what I'm going to do is make sure that my settings are set properly. I want to not skip consolidated values. I do want to skip rule 0 values. So let's go ahead and go back to scheduler, and this time we'll rerun it again. And now it's going to create the extract in QVX format with the 12 records that we saw. So now it's complete. We got 7,000 bytes. I'm going to go ahead now this time, go into the script, and this time I'm going to bring in the table file. And so we're going to load in the data that we just got done creating. So that would be the employee compensation. And now here are the same 12 records that we brought in earlier. Here's all of the columns. And so now when you bring in data into QlikView in this method, now what you're doing is circumventing the user control and the security that's in TM1, and you're putting that into the QlikView application directly. And so then you will have to make sure that you maintain the data reduction and the security that QlikView offers. So this is a basic overview of how TM1Connect can allow you to use QlikView as your data visualization for TM1 data in a variety of different ways.